Hello, this is a video about how and why we need embassies, at least temporary, and in replace of, see, the memory and what we are taught through with the sciences, and as the branches of government individually grouped in together, countries A through Z, about history. We know it is self-value, criminally foreign influence, database relationships since before computers. See, but that isn't relevant to the jobs and titles, uses of names. See, there's a difference between names / words. And the slash, the solidas, it is an identity of volume. So it's different than saying something / something and something and something. These are like, for example, the cell nucleus, the cell body, and the cell wall /s. Note the cell walls all connect. Body of value discernment, also invisible but still discernible. The subject, the predicate, the sentence. Those are three different, or one word sentence. It has to have a predicate. It has to have a mother. Everything comes from M, N, O. Alpha and omega distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously are mother. Alpha and omega simultaneously are individual, grouped, and species body of volume /s. Bound three ways, different ways, for example. Science reveals that there's one identity of simultaneous nature, that all species have a semi-nature relationship to it. And when our complete individual identity of volume, we're like a little piece of the identity that is space / existence, and where and how more and more forever nature is being made. So we have to have a counter position that we agree or don't agree about. But it has to be a position that is the human identity of volume's natural native science. That is an identity of relationship to itself as itself. What's really going to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. This is not. This already had remote uses of all fact-cheaping nature on and off all formal locations, all locations, areas, and states of the entire human species since semi-ancient times. There are criminally foreign influence roles having been with it are manifest as identities of sophistication and of non-sophistication in collusion against native real sophistication. Correlation / discorrelations means one way redeems. It's native pure. See, it is even things that are negative value nature, like where and how Native Americans feel like not one, not with us. Because this system is still self-valued. Our founding parents didn't have free speech. They had to hide their actual roles, counter-extorting the first original 13 states into a plan. Because they had slavery, for example, sickly distinctly in the North and the South. No witch trials simultaneously. Fact-cheaping nature-wise. The same way they have, seem relevant to differential constant criminal foreign influences. So all victim predators, though, we're simultaneously supposed to forgive and not forgive. See, but in other words, as a quality of fact-keeping nature, relevant to where we have to counter the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. At ground locations, no. And so it is more probable and is more practical, and it is necessary, relevant to other treatments of American history of ancient history that all the countries are making, of their own history. They're leaving out the forced identity thefts, the forced non-free speech of each modern country's founders in a semi-ancient trap. This knew that if an archetypal human fact-keeping nature, so it knew that no matter how powerful a leader gets, all locations, areas, and states would be differentially, constantly criminally foreign influenced. That is why and how they are so overtly in collusion. Overt criminal enterprises, plural, private ones, and the branches of government where they are still overtly criminally foreign influenced, delusions wrought, and offensively rules, crimes, predators, and offensive evidence reception racketeering natures. But everyone misses this. And so this is relevant to where and how all these countries, A1 to Z, however many countries there are, they were involved with individually grouped and together tactical ulterior from how we are individually grouped and together per how and why we are communications. Attention to details, finite, active, and progressive, bound, but also with two other identities of sequence, the sequence/simultaneous nature further, like the value of sequence true before that. The value also would come that is a little more beyond that we don't know, but we know is increasing value with it. For example, the progressive value. So this is at the end of a whip. Every modern nation was formed. They had to speak anyway, and they made that as a nervous system. They made the body sense for the archetypal breaching method. The proverbial devil, or the proverbial shaitun, I don't know how pronouncing their dialects. And the proverbial archetypal criminal enterprise. I am not a lawyer, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal. Lawyers were also roles, making quality of fact-keeping nature. Subjects parting to leave out what is the revelations of the simultaneous, tactically, to measure, to maintain, through our own here and there, themselves screened. They invested, like with witch trials, invested hiding from correlation what is actually recorded substance of courts involved with witch trials. What is actually with the recorded substance of the executive branch. But note simultaneously that those are the only people to turn to. So it's not A or B. We're in an identity trap. And so we have to examine and understand the three branches of government in every modern country. And we have to understand how they are with exception nature. Like the prisons tied to the courts. The people that do the food, the medicine, hand out toothbrushes, unlock a door to let people out, innocent people. They're even against innocent people, and with their own patients and criminals before they were caught. And with innocent people, they just attach to fake words. The databases, since before computers, they didn't match up. And where and how the efforts to make them match up those locations are including the locations of the FBI involved with wire crime methods that effectively kept and keeps our agencies individually grouped and together, and our various courts and on off the state judicial branch officers, criminally foreign influence, as one's roles leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack, with what is actually recorded. Remote uses of each age of fact-cheating nature, sickly distinctly, each correlation nature. They're making lie progressions needed to be hid by people on campuses, off campuses, simultaneously. It's on and off private database relationships, locations. And it's other campuses at the same time. It's fact-cheating nature oriented. Illusions relevant to all the different countries where they have all these different things and they have to hide the secret because they keep the policing. They're all knaves though, where they keep on and off campuses known where they don't speak about things because no one has time to have the quality of fact-cheating nature, for example. And then people will deny that simultaneously. But while they're simultaneously fabricating things into databases and pretending they didn't understand people, while simultaneously recording everyone with fake audio and video. And how they do this at the youngest ages, facilitated from off campuses, is also facilitated in a way through consciously. In other words, keeping the wrong outcome /S with perception. This is one thing that all the different chaos in every country is relevant to, where besides the method of having everyone blaming other things, others and ourselves for what it causes, maintains, and keeps, fact-cheating nature oriented wise. It's identity theft /fraud. And it's increasing. And so roles pretending to be able to speak for positive or religions. See, we have the sciences individually grouped and together, tactically, categorically, criminally foreign influenced, per a ground method. Now this has been, there were connections between the universities, even the homeschool kids. That difference. See, the investigators' investigations in the courts, there were victim predators, but that was all employed. What's the answer to why slavery was there? You look at what is simultaneously. It was sickly distinctly in the north and in the south to keep how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned. To keep the method from being discerned, where they had the countries involved with that. We're blaming them because they were involved with it. That's right. But we're also simultaneously defending, in other words, when we were that volume, before we were ourselves here. Our founders were that volume before they were themselves there. They were that volume as quality of fact-cheating nature, again, forced to entertain speech that if they didn't, that location. What's the name? See, we are a value /value progression. We are an increasing identity of volume. That is only automatically temporary positive, because the identity of simultaneously nature will only stay positive unto itself. All exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of the same thing, which demonstrates Earth's distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to the rest of space /existence, being its concentrated relationship to itself, where and how one identity of volume can make more of the identity of volume all the difference. In other words, the 5 identities of sequence, 1/3/5 identities of sequence nature. are that one identity of simultaneous nature that generated matter. So from before the finite, before the finest thing was generated. I mean, the most finite thing, before the smallest detail of physics was generated. And while it was being generated, and as itself, this volume was already. And that volume's identity of relationship to itself is inseparable from itself. Where and how it can't be temporary, finite like that. I mean, a small thing like that, it's smaller than it. It is so anyway by being the value simultaneous, which the ancients knew that we need. In other words, it is the original, what do they call it? Temples were tied to the identities of countries and or the equivalent name. Individually grouped together, this is identity. When identity is being gotten over on, or when identity can be helped, it makes some, in other words, they went by evolution science. What's really going to cause positive value nature progression acts and natures and means out of nowhere, unfathomed, and where and how accounts where we are fact-cheaping nature. And where and how accounts where we're dealing with the invisible but still discernible. And its identity as a hyper-invisible. We're the invisible but still discernible. We have to see that's a science. It just takes an order. These are 1/3/5 identities of order. This now relevant to sound in physics. There are 7 notes, individually grouped and together, bound, and that's exception nature and demonstration of this. And where and how only increasing identities of volume, anything that can be even made up, could only have a further positive, anything that could work or not, it has a further positive or negative relationship to itself. So positive treatments, facts findings treatments, they could still be criminally foreign influence facts findings, efforts, sequence shift cover-ups, criminal insidiousness used remotely at locations already. So we have victim predators here and there that are involved with this, with offensive evidence reception racketeering, where there is complete possession over the identities or the opinion natures of people of A through Z through each age of fact-cheaping nature because of the extent and the effectiveness of the simple method that also other was told of other things, others, other and or selves were and are blamed for what it caused and what it maintains, with every finite instance grouped and together. This keeps together the human species. Not that evolution science that feels like games, because there's no games, because it really reveals the nature of fact-cheaping nature quality. So in other words, it's relevant here and there. Offensively, people are pretending passions and emotions relevant to things like religions. In other words, when they bring up Sharia law, that is used to measure and maintain how countries A through Z are also shock and awe as sophistication. And where and how that is used remotely It is through their lies and life progression, through his uses of their actually standing recorded nature. Good people, where and how they're evil. What made people so evil to do those things? What we have to remember that they were blaming other things, others, and ourselves. Exactly the way the breaching method wanted and needs. We have to examine the proof is how criminally foreign influence databases, relationships. That's one of the things simultaneously that Jim Crow laws is about. And it's about counters to it that are in collusion through also with the lawyers, also used remotely. Like all exception nature associated with the branches of government and with the receptions of evidence, with the reception of identity, with the reception of title, with the reception of ground, locations, areas, and states. See, this one identity of volume that is simultaneously is distinctly ground, mostly as non-life. No. Is distinctly as life. Is distinctly as our species. See, but we are not allowed to use our species increasingly offensively. And we have to deal with here and there. So that they make subjects to them, they make problems. Like drugs and addiction. These are databases where people are that don't even, they're just putting fake histories of people into databases. The people involved with predicate acts of a whole bunch of juxtaposed natures are also people like police departments, interstates, ones also as doctors, as psychologists, our countries. So, for example, all these countries, that was employed to be used. Everyone would self-evaluate using that. In other words, they have roles with various natures of courts, various natures of job locations, industries locations, homes, corners locations, things brought up fact-checking nature-wise. This is a method that has everyone self-valuing sequence shift roles that are increasingly self-valuing roles with predicate acts against each age of fact-checking nature. Also roles with people telling because of how they have victim predators at each age of fact-checking nature response-wise. And with nervous system, originally and still is recorded, employed, forced to entertain that theater. Like, for example, quote, fake news, unquote, by Donald Trump. Reason why, I don't even know, I don't even have to know, in other words, why Obama had to kick the door, President Obama. Barack Obama, that's the coolest name. Barack. I made a rap song. I don't know if it's hard to, I don't know if it came off wrong. That's not by accident things come off wrong. They're forced to be received wrong too. People are forcing teams and things other. It's supposed to be invisible but discernible, and their conjunctions to discern not only the conjunction of that hyper invisible, so to speak, but why we need embassies is because distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously the ground is our identity of volumes, identity of value / value progression. And it works. See, positive and negative, what's going to cause positive and negative was set up as exceptions and exception nature, tactically ulterior. In other words, employed to keep everyone incapable of defending themselves in their fact-sheeting nature. Note criminal insidiousness. Note, quote, criminal insidiousness, unquote. So it is evidences that the branches of government and that lawyers, with our inclusion also with a whole bunch of nations formally, and with overt criminal enterprises, and with private ones, known, unknown, and all shock and awe, victim predators, relevant to the negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and sequence shifts involvements, method/S involvements, that are also uses of identity ground locations, uses of where and how everyone at each age blamed other things other than ourselves for actually made and keeps all the bad things that the news has to say and doesn't have time to say, and all the good things they have to say and don't have time to say, employed to do that, to get over on simultaneous nature the way the breaching method needs, but through other methods too. It's a screening method. When things go to court, it's an offensive evidence reception racketeering. It's an identity theft/fraud method. They make us, in other words, they make little kids say and things because they hear things. They have misinformation tied to where and how. They have fake integrity. Like, for example, there's a Joshua Stryker, and there are Eric Oliveri and Craig Oliveri, and there's a Matt Olson, Eric Olson, and their families involved with identity thefts and frauds and predicate acts with a whole bunch of women when they were girls were involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the police and courts and political families with falsified police reports roles, identity thefts and frauds instances roles, uses of corners, uses of their involvements with Russians, with Koreans, with Afghanistan, with medical racketeering, also with identity thefts and frauds, not just with their places, but they time things with overt criminal enterprises, plural, on and off job sites, where they have the groups, overt criminal enterprises, plural, private, all that juxtaposed, kept on public and private schools also coordinating lies and illusions, where they speak things in courts, bring things before them, subject treatments where they leave out exceptions, exception nature, and they have roles planting the exceptions, exception nature to use criminally, to where and how equality of fact treatment nature is prevented here and there. So they self-value the fake sides where tactically pseudo-educated people are making convictions and with delusions and as rules for crimes predators per the law. So they can't, and they're hiding it. Now they have to keep hiding that, so they have the people in prisons. And the method they can do that and make people not, complain about the constant tortures and rolls of the prisons with the outside racketeering is because of how they've been roles with all the other countries. For example, even overarching parts of it, like all that involved with psychiatry and with medical racketeering, medicines and drugs crimes, with and as the people that are only ones to counter it, not by accident, as their roles also with people in the jails. They are kept needing to hide life progressions per uses of all these other uses and motivations of the individuals involved with it. every identity of member of each of the natures of courts in Connecticut, for example, leading up to the World Trade Center attack. And every identity, every member individually grouped and together of the executive branch, leading up to the World Trade Center in that attack context in it. Every member of the political branch, individually grouped and together, sickly, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. 2, everyone blaming other things other than self, like politics, for the real causes of why there's a quality of fact treatment nature that has prevented what we should have had just 2, 3 hard classes about, 5 hard classes about. And that's it. We understand there's a predicate acts delivery system method that caused what the fact treatment nature and hostage, and worse than that, worse than just slavery of our founding parents, let alone the people hurt most by that, let alone all the exceptions in exception nature being and having been employed effectively without anyone discerning as shock and awe. No, because shock and awe is also involved with the fact this is about this method that had the courts defend that and how they had witch trials and how they had roles with leaders. Like, for example, leaving out what is simultaneous, which is revelations. There were witch trials, and it was slavery. And it was before our founding parents were born, and they said to make the Constitution unabridged. And we have rules, crimes, predators that are delusions raw, that are playing tricks with games, offensive evidence reception, racketeering. That's why it's down to the corners, the uses of confessions at corners. This is an identity theft / fraud method, which is the common to all the motivations of the people I don't know that use my name that need to pretend other, outside of courts, outside of the police stations. Now, they faked it too. I never, when I was a kid, me and my family, we had nothing to do with the police. The other kids, they do this thing, the police families. But they do it with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the judges individually grouped and together. They already did such. In other words, they use other methods. Time treatment simultaneously, too fast, too slow, to get over on what is forever nature's identity. No one spoke for Hartford, Connecticut, let alone New York City, let alone Wethersfield. Wethersfield, Connecticut is still in that little box since before cars. And first, no one wanted to be in Wethersfield. And they made Hartford / Wethersfield and Bloomfield, West Hartford, and then there's the Connecticut River. But they made this, knowing they were going in phases, knowing people would counter, but all those counters were also inclusion. They were countering subjects, treatments, and problems. They were grouping them and then defending that. And that's what, more than any other motivation, is really what's behind the motivations of evil. No. Now, like, they have killers, and then they say, oh, this is why I did that, but like that. Or they have people that say, oh, well, we examine their lying. Of course they're lying, and the people with them are lying. These are people, the more and more they have to hide what's actually recorded evidence reception value. And simultaneously had to do it with the, quote, fake news, unquote. And the news communicated, confessed, demonstrated, recorded They use the motivation like you to pretend it's personal. Like that's why they're doing it, because they're sequence shifting. They're starting fights with people and with lawyers. They're spreading lies with lawyers outside of courts. Wire crimes. They're making ad placements. There are companies with the news involved with racketeering with the agencies that and and then they have these like bipolar and things like that. They're out of their minds. Delusions, rot, sequence shifting, fabricating conversations with me, with people from my town that are families that all work together with the triage and with their little drug cliques and rolls with untimely deaths in the place next to it, because they keep control of everything, because they have roles with a whole bunch of other countries with identity thefts and fraud method roles and uses of corners, uses of exceptions relevant to that too, because of uses of our value/value progression, because of uses of of complete possession of their facts treatments, finite, active, progressive, their sequence treatments. Since before the World Trade Center attack, in that context, and since people enter cities through time who colluded to make instances to pretend to know me from distances, they are the same ones that colluded with the names like Scalora and with officers forging and switching names from different departments, and private police and their family members involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with predicate acts on off Central Connecticut State University, with Hartford courts, and with New Britain Superior Court, and with Connecticut News, and where and how they've been using the quote white right to lie, unquote, where they don't have the right to lie, because they did this with a whole bunch of other nations, rolls with instances. So they have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes, leaving out and having left out exceptions, having self-valued exceptions being and having been set up for them to use to get away with it. All that is actually to only you have to speak about good about people who are in the background going to say bad things about you. Make roles with offensive, and we have interbranch switching names and forging names. Weathersfield Police. There's a whole they have been preventing me and others because of that's why they brought the campuses intercities to time predicate acts roles. Illusions know too, though, as. See, some things are a whole bunch of things at once. Vaccines to campus dance with stolen name. And when they bring violence, when they speak about violence, they have that employed to cover up uses of the programs, including like churches and the Cub Scouts, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed the whole time how the courts and how all kind of medical racketeering has been involved with that, and delusions rot, and roles with rules, crimes, predators, that also makes relevant, keep is relevant now, but wasn't relevant in the past, which is how the lawyers are also roles, forcing, contained, and defend equality of fact treatment nature, and then cover up. Now they have to hide from the people in prisons. 666 slow killers. See, that never went away. We have this special kind of child abuse that not one person realized. You guys are all brainwashed. The entire A1 through Z, however many there are. So we take a position, and we take a moving position, but we take one that we're the people who don't agree that we'll move as one legion. That will change their mind, because the republic for which we stand was revealed by the entire species working by the species volume science. Yeah. till means appear one way alone. So they've been using the names like Taliban, Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda, Connecticut news media, interstates news media, with the investigators that are military, and the news media, they say they're lied to when they're told to say that only the military could know things, because they confess and record things by strangers. That's why they have offensive evidence reception racketeering, uses of Facebook recorded. Now they're pretending that we have to sue them, which is right, but which is also simultaneously wrong, because they know they're doing wrong from their positions, and they're forging and switching names. So they're preventing justice as collusion with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in his defendant capacities, and with various courts leading up to that, various cases where they've been involved with coordinated overt criminal enterprises, private ones, union leaderships, lawyers, readings of statutes, readings of other people's names. No, names / words is so this is about identities, of course. The identity of the simultaneous nature that leads pantheism, and the identity of the ground locations that are the temple, our perception of the groups that stand. Boxing, that's Legion land, A through Z. Our founders would want this. They need this. We must be led by what is native pure, and that which we know is going to be is positive everywhere at once, and also positive unto itself is going to be evolution. It means out of nowhere we're going to make a quality of fact, cheap in nature, that uses as evidence how that and how since before cars, the pathology of homes of means to them, all difference and all acceptance in nature employed this demonstration of the same thing. Boxing. Also how the Hartford Civic Center fell is connected to the Trade Center, World Trade Center, with the agency's roles with this. Also one speaking on Facebook trying to speak illusions as ones involved with the courts and the CIA families. Involved also, I don't know what kind of police forms or what they are, but I know they're also involved with predicate acts with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, in the form also as roles with identity thefts and frauds, as their roles with falsified police reports, Escalora families, plural, intercities, on and off campuses that they didn't even go to, involved with identity thefts and frauds, relevant. Then that's one of the things that it is with a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime, and people with demorals in their family, also with Wethersfield Police, with predicate acts on my street, and intercities, and with involved with the area with that, and with the hiring of with a police chief years ago, and one now, Sidentron, and one years ago, involved with, and they have state police involved, record, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also. Everyone forced to speak through other is also part of it, and how they have each age of fact-cheaping nature in this little trap where they have the elderly home stewards and the child campuses stewards as police forms, being and having been the ones involved with the Afghanistan and the other countries like Korea, involved with remote uses of instances next to on both sides of the state judicial branch offices, and names like Enzo Fienza, confessions regarding his family's roles as a stranger with the buildings next to WFSB in downtown Hartford, and on 2 Rod Highway, and next to the state judicial branch offices, and as their roles with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and of uses of that, and of people that were fighting with him at the time, also in collusion with and as the uses of the police forms and the overt criminal enterprises and private ones per them, and per what is recorded, roles, and with the narratives and natures as actually recorded, relevant, and where and how. Like, for example, they've been lying they have to lie to Judge Napolitano and the other judges on television, all of them, and or with them. They have to force them roles. Everyone's lying. Everyone's forced to speak through others, and everyone makes confessions that way. We have to, so we have to understand how differentially, constantly, even when they are not, they don't want people killing people, but other ways they are made to self-evaluate. Because they were roles with makes those people where there have been gun shootings through time. Like in Hartford, there are more formally in collusion things that are criminally foreign influence, sick, delusions, rot, sequence shift oriented upon the people of Hartford. That are more than there are streets of Hartford, not by accident. This is a breaching method trap that was set up before our founding parents were born. It had employed everyone's language, everyone's syntax. This is hyperlinguistics. This is legion. So we agree or disagree. So type agree or disagree, or type legion, or yay or nay. We say. In other words, we agree. We're in the semi-ancient trap. We have the science to show it. We have the means to afford unfathomed things. In other words, but we have to admit the trap it is by following the trap backwards. So we open up temporary simultaneous locations and means out of that trap distinctly, because people are sickly distinctly in this trap. Again, so sickly non-distinctly stays, everyone defending, blaming it, what it's causing on other things, others and ourselves. That also is roles with uses of identity, ground, locations, voices, individually grouped and together, kept needing to hide remote uses of those identities individually grouped together, where and how it counts. This is a slick thing. Boxing would break it whole, species, body, lift, who trains. We are Legion 1. We are Legion's parts, multi-front for forced. I speak as source. So, why not ye partake? Seek you must break to find the sea. I lead you on, here, now forward. Please proceed.